Hi guys, and welcome back to I Speak English. My name's Hayley, and in this lesson we're going to be taking a look at Cambridge C1 essay. Specifically, I'm going to be writing a Cambridge C1 essay in real time, and I'm going to be giving you tips and structures on how to do it while I'm writing it. You can also write one along with me if you want, because we're going to be going step by step through each section of the essay. So if you are taking the Cambridge C1 exam, this is going to be really useful for you. And like I said, you can actually practice along with me as well. You can pause the video at certain points and write along with me and write your answer to this. I'd be happy to also mark any of your answers if you want to write them in the comments as well. But before we do take a look at that, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. And if you find this video useful, please do give it a like. It just helps it to reach more people so that they can get some tips on how to write essays or just help them with their Cambridge exams as well. So go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click like, and make sure that you've got your notifications turned on so that you get a notification from me every time I upload a new video. New videos are every Saturday. And new shorts are every single day. Right, let's get started with our essay then. Okay, so let's take a look at our Cambridge C1 essay then. If you're not sure what it looks like, it's going to look like this on the left here. This is what your essay question will look like in the exam. Okay, so you're going to have kind of instructions at the top. And then a few points for you to cover and some opinions from whatever lecture you've been in or wherever this essay has come from. And then you're going to have a few more instructions at the end. Okay. Your essay format. So first of all, this is part one of your writing exam. There are two parts in your exam. And your writing exam is an hour and a half altogether, which gives you 45 minutes for each part. So you have 45 minutes for your essay, and your word count is 220 to 260 words, and you should be writing in an academic style, so it should be formal. You need a clear introduction and a clear conclusion, and you need to discuss two of the points from the question. That's very important. Make sure that you read the question carefully. You will always get 3 points to discuss, but you should only focus on 2 of them. Okay, because otherwise you've not got enough words anyway to focus on the 3 of them. But let's take a more detailed look at this question then. So your class has recently attended a lecture on what methods governments should use to tackle obesity in school children, and you've made the notes below. So your methods that governments could use are lessons on nutrition, sports facilities, and legislation. So you need to talk about 2 of those points, okay? Only 2 of them that you need to choose, right? You've also got some opinions here as well. So opinions expressed in the lecture, okay? If parents don't provide healthy meals, there's not much that schools can do. School kids should be getting more exercise, and we need new laws so that people are less likely to buy junk food. Okay. So those opinions there, they're just there to help you. You don't have to use them, but if you can't really think of any ideas, you can use them, but make sure you're paraphrasing them. Don't lift that sentence completely and kind of copy and paste it into your essay, because you will not get points for that. So make sure you're paraphrasing if you want to use those opinions. Okay. All right, and then the rest of it, okay, so write an essay discussing 2 of the methods, okay? You should explain which essay is more useful and give reasons to support your answer, okay? This is very important. Sometimes when I read people's essays, sometimes they've written about 3 of the points. Sometimes they've not given any examples to support their answer. And sometimes they haven't chosen which one is more useful or more important. You have to do those 3 things in order to get your content mark. Remember that your content mark is worth 1/4 of your total mark here. So you need to do all of that, and also your writing needs to be relevant, and then you'll probably get a 5. Content mark is basically the easiest mark that you can get, out of your whole, like your total mark, okay? So remember, you've got content, you've got language, that's your grammar and vocabulary, your accuracy and your variety or your range. Okay, you've got organization, whether you're using paragraphs well, if you're using linking words, if your writing is just logically ordered and your argument flows well. And you've got communicative achievement, so can you communicate your ideas properly? They're your 4 marking criteria. You're marked from 1 to 5 on each criteria, and you get 20 marks in total. Okay. Right, so that's your essay format. Okay. Next up, your essay structure. So I'm just going to give you a really quick structure, and we're going to follow this when I'm writing my essay, and you can follow it when you're writing yours as well. So first of all, you want an introduction. In your introduction, you only really need 2 sentences. First, just a general kind of statement about the overall topic, in this case, obesity in school children. And your second sentence is just going to state that you're going to discuss 2 points and be specific about which 2 points you're going to discuss. That's all you need in your introduction. Okay. Next up, in your paragraphs, I always tell my students to try to use this structure: point, explanation, example, because that keeps your writing kind of logical. Okay. Make your point. Is it useful or not? Explain why. Why is it useful? Give an example. You have to give reasons to support your answer. So you can just kind of invent a study or invent some kind of statistic to support what you're saying. Okay. So I would do that in paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 for the separate points. This is a super quick essay structure, by the way. I do have a more detailed video on the essay. I'll link it up here if you want something a bit slower. I'll put that there for you, and you can see everything you need to include in an essay. This is just a very quick run through before I do a walkthrough of the whole essay. Okay. So point, explanation, example for both of your body paragraphs, and then you need a conclusion. In your conclusion, you must choose which point is more important or impactful, or in this case useful, because it tells you to in the instructions. In your exam question, it's stated you must choose which is more useful. And I like to kind of make a prediction at the end as well, like what would happen if this point were to be taken into account. Okay, what implications would it have? That's just an easy way to get a conditional sentence into your essay right at the end. Okay, I'm going to show you how to do this in a second when I write my essay. Right, that's your basic essay structure, super quick. And then 5 things that you need to include in your essay. This is mainly grammar. Okay, this is what the examiners expect to see grammar-wise in your essay. Again, your language mark, which is 1/4 of your mark, is based on grammar and vocabulary, your accuracy and your range. Examiners expect to see these grammar points. Okay, let's take a look. So you want an inversion form in there. Okay, if you are unsure what inversion is, take a look up here. I've got a video explaining exactly what that is and how to use it in your exam. Cleft sentences, again, if you're not sure, take a look up there. I've got a video for you. Passive forms. Okay, you have to use passives because you're writing in an academic style, which is formal, and passives help you to write more academically, more impersonally, which is how you should be writing here. Conditional forms, absolutely, they want to see some conditionals from you. A really easy way to use conditional forms is to use it to explain why. Okay, so you make your point and then you think, okay, why? Well, because this happened, this would happen. So it's just an easy way to get conditionals in whenever you give a reason for something. And participle clauses. Okay, I'm not sure if I have a video on participle clauses. I don't think I do, but I will make one. And when it's made, the link will be up here. I'll also put all these links in the description for you as well, so check that out. So there are 5 things that you need to include. Also, you do need to include linking words just throughout your essay in general. Things like however, what's more, in addition. These help to keep your writing ordered and logical. And one more thing, avoid phrasal verbs, okay? Phrasal verbs are informal. We use them in informal speech, so try to avoid using them in your essay. There are a few that you can use that are still kind of formal. Again, I think I have a video on this. I'll put the video up there if I remember which one it is. But in general, don't use them too much in writing in general. You can use them in your informal letter to a friend, and you can use them in speaking, but in writing, formal writing, we don't use them that much. Okay. Alright, so that's a really quick rundown of everything that you need to include in your essay. Now, we're going to start writing, or I'm going to start writing. Okay. Right, so let's get my essay up then, shall we? Alright, so this is my essay question here. Let's just remind ourselves of the essay. So your class has recently attended a lecture on what methods governments should use to tackle obesity in school children, and you've made the notes below. My methods that I have are lessons on nutrition, sports facilities, and legislation. Okay, so first of all, in the exam, I need to choose which 2 I want to talk about, and then my first step after that, a very important step, is to plan. Right, lots of people skip this step, and it's very obvious when you skip it. As someone reading your essay, it's very obvious. I can tell straight away who hasn't planned, because their essays often are just quite messy, they're not very logical, and often they're writing kind of irrelevant information. The aim of planning is to keep you on track and to make sure that you're actually answering the question. A lot of the times, this is a problem I get when I'm reading people's essays, is that they're not answering the question. They're just writing whatever comes to mind, but they're not actually going back and checking if it answers the question. So that's a tip, another tip I have for you. Keep looking back and reading your question again and thinking to yourself, okay, does what I'm writing actually answer the question, what can governments do to tackle obesity? That's my question. If what you're writing doesn't answer that, then cut it out and start again. Okay. But one way to avoid starting again is to plan. So I would recommend taking like 2-3 minutes tops from your 45 minutes that you have, just to plan. Okay. So what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to put a timer up. I'm going to put it on my phone, but I'll also put it up here as well so you can see. I'm going to put a timer up, and I'm just going to start it, and I'm going to write a really quick plan. Okay, I'm going to show you how I plan, and then we'll see how much time it takes me. Right, so I'm going to start my timer now. So first of all, my intro, as I told you, you only need 2 sentences, right? So you need to say a general statement about obesity. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, obesity is a big problem. Ignore my spelling errors because I'm writing quickly. That's my first sentence, and then I need to say that I'm going to discuss, I'm going to choose lessons and I'm going to choose sports. They're going to be my 2 topics. That's my intro. Right. Moving on to paragraph 1, he said I need a point, explanation, and example. So my first point is going to be on lessons, and I'm going to say that lessons is useful. Then I need my explanation. Why is it useful? Okay. Well, I mean, the more knowledge you have about something, usually you use that knowledge to kind of change your behavior, right? If you're aware of something. So if you're aware that how obesity works, then you're probably less likely to be obese. Then I need an example. So I'm just going to invent like a study or a program or something, school program, in, let's say, I don't know, Finland or something. And the results were that there was less obesity in this program. And if you want, you can either reiterate or contrast your point. So I'm just going to like say, I'm going to reiterate and also add that it's not that expensive to do if you just have to incorporate it into the curriculum. All right. That's my paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is about sport. I'm also going to say that it's useful, because obviously it is. Why is it useful? Because when people do sports, they lose weight, generally. Okay, I need to give an example now. So I'm just going to make up another kind of thing. So, I don't know, England school gyms. Let's say schools in England have redone their school gyms, and as a result, students lost weight. And then again, if I want to add like a transition or a contrast, it's quite expensive to redo all these gyms. Also, it depends on students' motivation, to be fair. Okay, right, I'm going to stop my timer there. So that took me about 3 minutes to do. Okay, that's my plan. I've just noticed I'm missing my conclusion. Sorry. Right, let me start that timer again. Right, my conclusion, we said it's just 2 sentences. So I'm going to say lessons are better because they're less expensive. And the sports centres are more expensive, so it's easier to do. And you just need, what you call it? A prediction. So I'm going to say obesity would be lower. Children would eat better. Okay. Right, I've just stopped my timer, so that took me 3 minutes and 15 seconds just to write this plan. Okay. Now, while I'm doing this, I'm going to keep referring back to this plan. And that's going to help me stay on track while I'm writing my essay. You should also be doing this as well. It's very important. Because if you just go in with like a vague idea and then you suddenly like change your idea halfway through, you're going to get like there's going to be a clash of ideas there and it's not going to flow well. It might start getting a bit clunky and start confusing the examiner, which is what you don't want to do, because your communicative achievement mark is all about being clear and concise and being able to express your ideas properly. And if your ideas are all mixed up because you keep changing and you're not really sure what you're doing, you're going to get a low mark for that because the examiner's going to be confused. Okay. So spend 3 minutes at the start writing a very quick plan. You don't have to write full sentences, just write a couple of words so that you understand what your point is and where you're going. Okay. All right, so we've got my plan. Now it's time to start writing. I am also going to use a bit of a cheat sheet here. I'm going to use some useful phrases. I'm going to put this in the description actually so you can use it as well. Take a look at the description, there'll be a link there. You can download this PDF of useful phrases here. I'm going to use this useful phrases list. Just take a look. Take a few phrases just to kind of start me off. Okay, so I'm going to pick one of those phrases there and I'm going to use it to start my essay. So, my point. So, I need a general statement, like we said, about obesity. So, obesity is quite a big issue, so I'm going to say in recent years, obesity among school children. Again, make sure it's specific to school children and not in general. So obesity among school children. Oh, let me start my timer again, sorry. In recent years, obesity among school children has become a growing public health issue that demands urgent attention. So that's my general statement on my topic. That's my first sentence of my introduction. And then I need to state that I'm going to discuss lessons and sports in this essay. Okay. Sorry, that's it. Say urgent there. Make sure you're checking for spelling errors. So let's have a little kind of sort of comparison or something like that. So while several strategies have been proposed, this essay will focus on, or will discuss, you could say, the introduction of nutrition lessons and the improvement of sports facilities in schools. Alright, so that's it. That's my introduction. I just stopped my timer there. I am 5 minutes in, so I've still got 40 minutes left at this point, and I've written a plan and I've written an introduction. Okay. Obviously, I'm going to be going faster than you because I'm a native speaker and I don't have to concentrate on all of my grammar and everything like that. But that'll do for your introduction. That's enough. Okay. Again, watch out for. Got a few spelling errors there because I'm typing quick, but watch out. So in recent years, obesity among school children has become a growing public health issue that demands urgent attention. While several strategies have been proposed, this essay will focus on the introduction of nutrition lessons and the improvement of sports facilities in schools. That's my introduction. Done. Okay. So now we go back to our plan. What's my next step? Paragraph 1 is about lessons, and I need to write my point that I think lessons are useful, and then I need to explain why they're useful. Okay. So remember here I said that you could use like a conditional form to explain why. You could also use an inversion form as well. That would be a nice way to explain why as well. So I've got lessons are useful because knowledge changes behaviour. That's my kind of vague idea of what I'm writing. Okay. So we need a new paragraph. First of all, make sure you're paragraphing. And let's go back to my useful phrases and take a look if there's anything I can take from there. Okay, first enough, few people would dispute. It's common knowledge that. Okay. Okay, I think I'm going to go with it's common knowledge that. That's a nice one. Right, let me start my timer again. Alright, so I'm going to say, first and foremost, that's a nice way to start. It's common knowledge that education plays a crucial role. That's a nice collocation there. Play a role in structuring, you need an ing with this collocation, students' behaviour. That's my point. Okay, so my point is that education is very important for students' behaviour in particular, and now I need to say why. I need to explain my point, okay? So why does it help students' behaviour? I think I'm going to try and use an inversion here. Let's say only by equipping students with knowledge about food can we expect long-term behavioural change. Okay. So that is my explanation. Okay. Alright, so I've got my points, I've got my explanation. I've said I think it's useful and why. Now I need an example. My example was a school program in Finland, and it found that there was less obesity. Okay, so I need to add that in, which I'm going to add here. Okay. So we could say, for example. So again, make sure you're using those linking words. Okay, it really helps with your flow. A school program in Finland. Let's say it showed like a drop in eating sugar or something. Showed a drop let's say 20% drop in sugar consumption among students who received weekly nutrition education. Okay, so we've supported our point there, okay? So our point is now supported, and then what else did our plan say? So you can either reiterate or contrast, so I'm going to say also, like, in addition, it's not expensive to do this because you can just do it in school anyway. You can incorporate it into a curriculum, so that makes it even better. Okay, so let's write that there. Let's see. I could put... do you know what would be nice actually? Here. I could even say, I could get a third conditional form in here if I say what would have happened if these students didn't have education. Okay. Apologies if you can hear a dog barking in the background there. It's not mine, it's a neighbour's, but we're going to carry on anyway. So let's say had these students, I'm going to even use an inverted conditional. If you don't know how to use inverted conditionals, look up there. I've got a video for you. If you can use them in your exam, you'll get very high marks. Okay, but I'm going to do that now. So had these students not been given such knowledge, their eating habits might never have changed. Okay. And now I'm going to add a little kind of reiteration. So furthermore, again, linking word. Make sure you're using these to enhance flow. Incorporating this content, let's go, into science and health classes requires minimal investment. Okay, instead of saying it doesn't take much money or it's not expensive, we need to find different ways to say this. Use synonyms, right? And why is this good? Because it's accessible to schools with fewer resources. Alright, boom. So that is my first paragraph. Okay, so I've got my point, which was, it's common knowledge that education plays a crucial role in structuring students' behaviour. That's my point. Education is very important for stopping obesity. Okay, why? Only by equipping students with knowledge about food can we expect long-term behavioural change. Okay, so that's how it changes their behaviour towards food. Give an example. For example, a school programme in Finland showed a 20% drop in sugar consumption among students who received weekly nutrition education. Okay, I've added an extra sentence in here just to give like a conditional form. This sentence isn't exactly necessary, but it does add to it. It's relevant and it adds different grammar. So, had these students not been given such knowledge, their eating habits might never have changed. Okay, and then I've got my reiteration. Furthermore, incorporating this content into science and health classes requires minimal investment, making it accessible to schools with few resources. Okay, so there's my first paragraph. Point, explanation, example, reiterate or contrast. Okay, all right, so I've still got 33 minutes left according to my clock here, which is plenty. Again, obviously in the exam, you're not going to be going this fast because you're going to have to watch your grammar and make sure you're using the right words and really, really think about it. So don't worry if you're not able to go as quick as I am. Right, let's take another look at our plan. So our next paragraph is about sport. So again, I'm going to say that sport is useful, and why? Because people who do sports lose weight. Okay, so I need to say that, you know, if the kids did sport, then they would lose weight and it would lower obesity. Okay, so that's my point and my explanation. So, what can I say? This is a good way to use a participle clause. Remember I told you that you should be using participle clauses as well as cleft sentences, etc. You can start a sentence with an ing form, and that is a participle clause. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here, actually. So I'm going to say, improving access to sports facilities is another important measure. Okay, why is it important? Trying to think how to use a cleft sentence or something here. Okay. It is these facilities. Okay, so make sure that you're also referencing back to the other sentences as well. When you use references like this, you also get more points. This is another grammar point that examiners are expecting from you, referencing. Okay, so you're kind of linking back to what you've just said. Okay, so it is these facilities that many experts believe are essential to tackling. Actually, we need a different word for tackling. For, let's say, lowering obesity rates, just because we had tackling in the instructions, and again, you don't want to like deliberately lift vocabulary from the instructions. You need to find synonyms or different ways to say the same thing. Okay, so I've got a cleft sentence in here, so again, I'll get more points for that, because they're expecting to see, you know, it is that, that's a cleft sentence. Examiners are expecting to see these in your essay. So improving access to sports facilities is another important measure. It is these facilities that many experts believe are essential to lowering obesity rates. What's more, linking words. So I need to say when students use it, they're more likely to, or let's say when students have it, they're more likely to actually use it, right? Because obviously if you don't have access to gyms, how are you supposed to exercise? So let's say if they have access, they're more likely. That's going to be my next point. So what's more, when students have access to modern equipment, try and avoid the word sports facilities and spaces, they're more likely to participate in physical activity, let's say, instead of sport. Alright, so that's my points and my explanation. Now I need my example. Let's go back to my plan. My example was schools in England have, you know, redone their gyms and students lost weight. Okay, so that's my next example. So I could say a school in England for instance, again, we need to get a linking word in there, saw a 35% increase in sports participation after renovating its gym. Okay, that's my example. And now I need to add my transition or a contrast or something like that. So I put in my plan that it's expensive. Obviously, renovating gyms are very expensive. Schools don't have the money to renovate gyms. And I also put it depends on students' motivation as well. Okay, so I need to add that. to my paragraph. Let's take a look here. So we're contrasting, so I need a contrasting linker. However, despite these benefits, so again, I'm linking back to the next paragraph I'm referencing, okay? Despite these benefits, the effectiveness of such facilities depends on student motivation and timetable. Factors which are harder to control. In addition, this is getting a bit long, but in addition, schools may lack resources, financial resources, let's say, for renovation. Okay. Right, so let's take a look at that second paragraph then. So improving access to sports facilities is another important measure. It is these facilities that many experts believe are essential to lowering obesity rates. What's more, when students have access to modern equipment and spaces, they are more likely to participate in physical activity. A school in England, for instance, saw a 35% increase in sports participation after renovating its gym. However, despite these benefits, the effectiveness of such facilities depends on student motivation and timetabling, factors which are harder to control. In addition, I'm missing a comma there. Make sure you always put a comma after linking words. In addition, schools may lack financial resources for renovation. Okay, so there's my third paragraph, or my second body paragraph, but my third paragraph in total. Okay, and now I just need to add my conclusion. Let's look at the time. How am I doing? I've still got 25 minutes left. Okay, I'm going super quick through this. Again, obviously in the exam, it's not going to go this fast for you. I'm just trying to do this as quick as possible to make the video as short as possible so you don't have to watch a super long video. Right, so conclusion. My conclusion was lessons are better because they're less expensive and they depend less on student motivation as well because they're in the lessons anyway. And then I needed to make a prediction, which would be that obesity would be lower if children had lessons because they would eat better. Okay, so, all right, let's take a look at my useful phrases list here for my conclusion paragraph. All right, we've got a bunch here. Haven't taken the points into consideration in light of the previous information, all in all. Okay, could use any of those. I think I'm just going to go with a simple in conclusion, to be honest, because I'm a bit lazy. So, in conclusion. So again, we can kind of do this like contrast, sort of contrasting way of making a decision. So I could say, although both strategies are beneficial, nutrition education is likely to have a more far-reaching, nice collocation there, effect. Sorry, far-reaching, not ratching, far-reaching. Okay, and then we need to make a prediction, so let's use a conditional here. Could try and use another inverted conditional. Okay, let's say, were this approach to be implemented nationally, what would happen? Like, then the next generation would grow up like with healthier eating habits or something. The next generation. Healthier eating habits, which would in turn reduce the rate of obesity. Okay, so there you go. I've answered my question. Okay. You can add maybe one more just final statement on the end. You know, like ultimately, prevention through education is more sustainable than treatment. After the fact. Okay. So yeah, so instead of like, you know, giving school facilities, sports facilities so that you can try and lose weight, it's better to just not put the weight on at the start, right? So it's better to educate first and prevent rather than try to do something afterwards. So again, apologies if you can hear a dog outside, it's driving me insane. So that's my conclusion. So in conclusion, although both strategies are beneficial, nutrition education is likely to have a far more reaching effect. Were this approach to be implemented nationally, the next generation would grow up healthier with healthier eating habits, which would in turn reduce the rate of obesity. Ultimately, prevention through education is more sustainable than treatment after the fact. Okay, so there's my conclusion. Good. So let's check my word count here. Make sure I'm within word count. That is 272 words. I'm actually over word count, so I do need to delete something. Okay, I'm just going to take off that last sentence there because it's not actually necessary. I have answered the question anyway. And I'm going to take off, in addition, schools may lack financial resources because I've also added that there. Okay, let's check my word count again. $251. Okay, I'm under word count now. Right, so there we go. There is my full essay. I'll give one more once through. We'll take a look at it all together now that I've done it all in one. So let's have a read all together. So in recent years, obesity among school children has become a growing public health issue that demands urgent attention. So that's your first general statement. While several strategies have been proposed, this essay will focus on the introduction of nutrition lessons and the improvement of school sports facilities in schools. First and foremost, linking word. It's common knowledge that education plays a crucial role, good collocation, in structuring students' behaviour. Only by equipping students with knowledge about food can we expect long-term behavioural change. Inversion form. Okay, good for grammar. For example, linking word. A school programme in Finland showed a 20% drop in sugar consumption among students who received weekly nutrition education. Had these students not been given such knowledge, their eating habits might never have changed. Inverted conditional form. Furthermore, linking word. Incorporating this content into science and health classes requires minimal investment, making it accessible to schools with fewer resources. Okay, point, example, explanation, transition, or reiteration. Improving access to sports facilities is another important measure. It is these facilities that many experts believe are essential for lowering obesity rates. Okay, cleft sentence. What's more, linking word. When students have access to modern equipment and spaces, they are more likely to participate in physical activity. A school in England, for instance, linking word, saw a 35% increase in sports participation after renovating its gym. However, linking word. Despite these benefits, the effectiveness of such facilities depends on student motivation and timetabling, factors which are harder to control. Okay, again, point, explanation, example, contrast or reiteration. In conclusion, although both strategies are beneficial, nutrition education is likely to have a more far-reaching effect. Were this approach to be implemented nationally, the next generation would grow up with healthier eating habits, which would in turn reduce the rate of obesity. Another inverted conditional. Okay. Boom. There we go. That's our essay. Done. Okay, so let me just recap what we said to include. Okay, we need, grammar-wise, an inversion form, a cleft sentence, passive forms, a conditional form, and a participle clause if you can, and use linking words as well. Very important. You could see there in my essay how the linking words were making such a difference to kind of the flow, because it was like, okay, now there's a contrast, or okay, now I'm adding extra information. So you have to add those linking words in. Oh, I forgot to check the time. Okay, I still have 16 minutes left according to my timer here. So I think I've done pretty well, to be honest. Again, don't worry if you're not that quick. That was very, very, very quick indeed. But make sure you're including all of this grammar and include your point, explanation, example, transition, contrast in your paragraph 1 and 2. Introduction, general statement about the topic, say what you're going to write, and your conclusion, choose which point is more important and then give a prediction. Alright, so that is it for your Cambridge C1 essay. If this video helped you, please do give it a like. It helps it to get to more people so that they can learn how to write an essay as well. Make sure that you check the description for all the links I mentioned in this video. There's a link for your useful phrases. I'm going to put a link for some useful collocations as well, and I will put the link to the full C1 essay video where you can get a lot more detail in stuff that you need to include. And I'll put a link where you can get some more PDFs as well, just to help you with vocabulary and structures and everything like that. Okay, so please do give it a like, make sure you're subscribed. If you have any questions about the C1 essay or anything about the exam, let me know in the comments and I'll help you out. And I'll see you in another video soon.